Kosher MGTOW. Shalom, everyone. Women's roles and their general effect in Judaism and beyond in relationships and more. One of the most interesting perspectives to all of this is the incredible difference in Judaism between the way that men pray and women pray. Because men generally are told that they have to go through the grunt of the praying, sometimes in the Orthodox sense, as many as 3 times a day, to be surrounded by others to watch them pray and even participate in prayer under the yarmulke and the sight and the ears of God. But the women are not obliged or obligated to pray that way. And in some respects, this creates conversations and intrigue and logic as to why women act differently and have a different role in society than men do under the guise of Judaism. So women have a choice, and it depends on several factors, but when they're with a man, whether it's within family bounds or with a boyfriend or with a husband or a perspective that they have an interest in, even raising a child, they have the choice of whether to support the actions of the male counterpart or reject or resist them completely. They can help out their male counterpart, regardless of whether it's a father or a boyfriend, a son, etc. They can help or they can completely oppose. It's very rare that they cross one of those fine lines. So the man is encouraged, to make money, get married, have children, and go through this process of, being supportive for the family in every which way possible, and pray consistently and constantly, observe traditions and more. And in the meanwhile, for the women, it's a little bit different. So while the man has all these insights, the woman is looking for the emotional and the understanding of situations. So whereas the man is doing a lot of external things to make things happen, the woman is more private and is keeping things internal as far as everything is concerned, including prayers. They're the ones that are reflecting on the developing, on making things right. And when you think about this in terms of being inside of the synagogue, they separate the women and the men for a purpose, for a reason. They do not want the men and women to associate in the same space together. There are different traditions and customs associated with that. So the women are encouraged to, take care of the household. They have the grunt of the responsibility of the lighting of the candles, to cook kosher meals, to make sure that everything in the family is running smoothly. When it comes to their menstrual cycle, they have to communicate right away when they have an issue to their man, so that way they don't participate for a matter of weeks sometimes in dirty sex and other relations. This is just the situation at hand. The way that the women are operating, it really depends on how their background and their traditions and their upbringing. And, there's a lot of differences here between how a daughter is raised by their father and how a son is raised by their mother. Was it strict? Was it to a point where you just follow rules? Was it family driven? Was it career driven? What influence does the community have on that? And are your decisions directly related to the competition within the community to do the same things? If you are living in a Jewish community, you might look around and say, well, this person has XYZ job and drive ABC car, and because of that, I have to chase that reality because I need to compete on the same level as them. The women are inherently feeling that hurrying up and marrying young and just being stuck in the household to do specific things and specific tasks in a traditional Jewish family, they find that oppressive. They feel like they're trapped. And this is kind of the give and take that has driven all of this situation towards feminism and beyond. There are certain things that men do on a daily basis out in the real world that the women don't have the same opportunity to share and express. It's interesting, though, that the women do not have to pray the same way that men do. But depending upon the woman's upbringing, they would be encouraged to step outside of their traditions and outside of their home life and be this all-around, all-encompassing, top-notch female with the career, dressing provocatively, showing that they have the ability, the knowledge, the skills to be the top-notch star in the workplace, or to use their creative aspects to be the next top actress, the next top best singer, the greatest star, the boss babe, the CEO. And it's this constant fight within women's heads of whether they should express and want and drive themselves to the point of, do I want a traditional life or do I want a life of ambition? And unfortunately, the outside community sees a Jewish woman of that sort who is constantly trying to improve herself and go outside of the traditional roles as being somewhat destructive to herself and the Jewish family, because she's not doing exactly what she's being told or what she was supposed to do from tradition, and she is using all of this feminine energy to fight against the traditions and to fight towards her own personal obligations and goals and targets, as opposed to being less selfish and to take care of what's needed to be taken care of. And part of this recent development of events in this previous generation has been driven by technology, the internet, online. While women have this wonderful idea of exploring social media and sharing this, that, and the other thing about how they're the greatest cook, they're the greatest homemaker, they have the best fashion sense, they take care of their home a certain way, they can create this amazing drink. It spirals sometimes out of control, and then it becomes a competition-based system, and who's got the most followers, how far are you willing to pull and try to get attention. They're liberated, they're encouraged, let's go outside of the norms, let's create a fan base, and then all of a sudden they get themselves happier with their following, and women are very content with the potential possibility of leaving the traditional role in this generation and continuing to explore and be out there, to show off their bodies, to push the envelope and freeze their eggs as long as freaking possible before they actually have to start a family and have kids, to do things that traditionally are male roles, but they're doing it as females instead, which is completely frowned upon. And part of that might involve that sort of upbringing and that relationship that the daughter, the woman, would have with their father, and the traditions that come straight from that. Because if you have women-led societies, women-led workplaces, women-led everything, sometimes that's frowned upon by some of the rest of the population. So what am I trying to get around to saying with this, and how do I support or reject these particular standpoints? This is Kosher MGTOW. You kind of have to understand the situation at hand. There's female nature, and then there's the idea that the woman wants to rebel. This has been a defining point in the Torah from the very beginning. Adam and Eve, we can go through it, the poisoning, etc. You shouldn't have done that, did it anyway, convinced Adam to do it, you guys can't live forever, etc., etc., etc. We don't have to go through that. But the woman can rebel, just like a man can rebel, but the woman can rebel. And her level of rebellion can grow and spiral out of control. If you are in a situation where you are noticing this and reading this, that's something that needs to be considered, okay? Because if you're the man and you want your woman to be a very specific way, and they weren't trained to be along those lines from the very beginning, it's going to make your job that much harder to get your woman to fall in line. You can recognize and see the signs within the bounds of a conversation. And many MGTOW men are actually being encouraged during any female interaction, even if it's as short as 30 seconds, to a speed dating event, which is a matter of a few minutes to 5 minutes to 10 minutes, or even if you're on a coffee date, 15 minutes to 30 minutes, even if it's a lunch date for an hour, a dinner date for whatever length of time, and thereafter with an activity. The first initial dates, you should probably let her do a lot of the talking. Sometimes as much as 75% plus. Figure out where she's at and how she's operating, because that will help you narrow down your search. But at the same time, if the women are indeed on the internet, online, on these dating apps, and are all fighting over the same top 1% of men that have it all together, a lot of the other men out here aren't even going to have the opportunity to score these lunch dates, dinner dates, or etc., because you are, unfortunately, like several others, sometimes including myself, automatically disqualified from getting to know these people at all whatsoever, and these women are just going to go about their business and all gravitate towards the top 1% man. So if you're in that top 50%, you think you want to level up, that's up to you. It's probably smarter that way. Get smarter, exercise more, take work more seriously, save more money, take care of business, have fun, enjoy your time off. But if these women don't want to buy into the program that you have and are not interested, don't force it. It ain't worth it. And once these women rebel to a point where you know it isn't fitting and tying in with your program, you can let them know, hey, this is what I go along with, this is what I can't go along with. You go along with my program or I'm going to bounce. That's even if you get the opportunity. The opportunity might not even be there. So just some food for thought. If you get to that point, you're going to have the crossroads and you're going to have to decide, worthy to continue or not. Tough decisions, but what gender roles matter. Kosher MGTOW.